About 2 years ago, a migrant doctor from Pakistan was put in prison for shouting at his son because he was late for school. He managed to get a bail and the court released him without any conviction, but he now has a criminal record. This led to his citizenship application being refused, and every time he has to apply for a country or for a visa to any country, he has to declare his criminal conviction. There was another doctor whose relationship ended in divorce when his wife was unable to cope with the pressures of being socially isolated in rural Australia. Undergoing divorce process led to him being in financial debt, and despite earning well, he still supports two different households, one his and one of his ex-wife. Then there is a major issue of intimate partner violence, which occurs both from men to women and also from women to men. There have been multiple examples of migrant families with special needs children or family members with physical or mental disabilities having to go to court and seek ministerial intervention to obtain a health waiver for that special needs child or family member. All this is surely enough to test the most loving of relationship. In fact, a study in the US ironically showed that divorce rates among doctors in the US are actually lower than those of lawyers and nurses, but they are higher for female doctors working extremely long hours. With the recent large number of female doctors migrating to Australia, being a GP, I can certainly sense that they do go through a tremendous amount of pressure, long commutes, childcare, and despite having very supportive husbands, there's often a degree of tension in those relationships. Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Rizwan Qureshi and I'm one of the consultants working in emergency medicine here in Sydney, Australia. We as doctors are perhaps one of the most trained professional when it comes to having good relationships. The communication, effective ways of communicating, maintain confidentiality, being empathetic, non-judgmental, and upholding the human life and values at any cost. However, when it comes to the personal relationship, we often have high expectation of others, and these expectations can often destroy rather than build up and protect those who are very close to us. This video highlights the relationship of doctors, especially migrant doctors. And for clarity, I will divide this into following chapters. Migration realities. These are the realities which hit you once you migrate and into the daily grind of a normal life. Family problems. In Australia, you can expect multiple problems because of lack of social support, so we'll talk about it. Addictions. Children issues. What kind of problems do children face? What about the law? How does the law protect you or expose some of the issues that you should be really aware of? What about the time and the relationship? Then finally, I'll lay out my conclusions at the end of this conversation. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. The thrill of starting a new job or marrying a partner from overseas can be captivating, to say the least. The idea of embarking on a new chapter in a different country, gaining independence and building a promising future is exciting, certainly. However, there is another side to this story, one that becomes very painfully clear when you leave behind the safety net of your parents and siblings and all the social and emotional support that you get for free 24/7. In the pursuit of opportunity, you may find yourself losing more than you bargained for. For migrant doctors in Australia, the reality often includes taking up position in rural and regional areas, which can feel very isolating. Even those working in major cities may find it challenging to access adequate social support for themselves and their families. In such circumstances, parenting often becomes a balancing act, with parents taking turns to care for their children due to limited external help. The impact of this transition can be profound. Don't get me wrong. The problem does not end here. Where there is an isolation in your new home, approximately 1/3 of newly arriving migrants from South Asian countries report monthly incidents of discrimination and bullying and harassment. Temporary visa holders report higher incidents of migration-related abuse, such as intimate partner violence. A survey of nearly 1,400 migrant and refugee women across Australia revealed that 1/3 had experienced domestic violence, which often goes unreported due to ongoing threats of deportation and separation from their children. Now, intimate partner violence also manifests differently and includes cases from women to men. For example, I have come across instances of physical abuse of husband In one sad example, a husband was paying all the bills while the wife, despite working, did not contribute anything to the family budget. In one another notable case reported in South Australia, a woman was sentenced to home detention for committing serious act of domestic violence against her husband. Now, male victims may be reluctant to report abuse because of the social stigma, fear of not being, believed, or concerns that, their masculinity is in jeopardy. The high stress environment of medical field can increase susceptibility to substance abuse, alcohol, gambling. Substance abuse cited as in as much as 34.6% of all divorces. There is an increasing trend of alcoholism and drug addiction amongst doctors alongside other professionals due to increasing stressful personal and professional lives. Studies have suggested that individuals from culturally and linguistically diverse, which are also known as CALD, backgrounds may experience highest rates of gambling-related harm. For instance, research had found that problem related to gambling rates in Australian Chinese community are between 2 to 8 times higher than the general Australian population. 1 in every 4 Australian students in year 4 to year 9 report being bullied every few weeks. Migrant children may face additional challenges due to cultural and linguistic differences. Children who migrate with their parents often face racism from other children at school, often because of their appearance, their accent, and how they interact, differently. Some parents have found a solution by sending their children to schools in migrant communities where most local children are from migrant families, so they tend to mingle well. Even children born to migrant families in Australia face similar behavioral issues, albeit to a lesser extent, but they do face some form of discrimination. Fortunately, the issue of bullying and harassment in Australian schools is now being taken very seriously. Both public and private schools take serious action against the bullies and also inform their families to get their children to have a psychological assessment and counseling. Another issue in Australian school is that if your child is ill-mannered or particularly below average in studies, they may ask you to get psychological assessment or even a developmental pediatric assessment for ensuring the child does not have or does not do not fall into being on the autism spectrum. The children of migrant families also face identity crisis. They are neither fully accepted as Australian nor fully embraced as natives of their parents' home countries. Many children get taken on annual leaves on family holidays to reconnect with their Eastern culture or South Asian cultures, but this can only be partially addressed because the challenges that they face are much more profound. There are strict laws of child protection and those related to intimate partner violence. Every migrant doctor must read about them, as breaching these laws can lead to criminal conviction, which can have serious consequences of your inability to get working with children's safety certificate or working with children clearance. Also, a criminal conviction can impact your visa renewals and also impact down the line your citizenship application. Actions considered normal in their own country can very much lead to charges of assault, conviction, and even prison time here in Australia. Now, any domestic violence involving police can certainly lead to apprehended violence orders, or also known as AVO. These lead to arrest and court attendance to fight these charges, and these could be something that they stay on your record forever. Also, because of the statistics of more men committing these crimes, police often align with females, mainly to protect them and the children, because they're the weaker ones in any relationship, and this is regardless of whose fault it might be in that particular argument. Lives of doctors are busy all around, especially if both parents are working full-time. That is 40 hours per week for each parent, and that is total of 80 hours per week for a family. Neglect time. Communication is vital for migrant doctors, and when exhaustion breaks down communication, it can lead to a fragmented relationship and often be a precursor to a separation or a divorce. What are the conclusions? It's often said that life is what you make of it, and the relationships are no different. In foreign countries, it is easy to feel isolated despite having a large circle of friends. Often medical associations and alumni organizations that aim to bridge this gap inadvertently lead to further isolation for young migrant families, as they see established and more successful doctors who are often out of touch with the ground realities of newly arriving migrant families. What are my suggestions? Look, I'm not an expert, but some of the things which I've observed listening to many of the friends and many of the migrant doctors are communication. Now, communication is the key. Have a breakfast and dinner together every day. Use dinner table talks to discuss the day's progress, issues, and solutions. A warm and hearty meal can achieve a lot. Dedicate family time. Reserve one day a week for a family. In Australia, Saturdays are often kids' sports day. Late Saturday nights could be for friend and family dinners together. Discuss problems openly. Share work-related problems, personal problems, and challenges with your partner, wives, and husband. They should be fully supportive of your work and personal issues and problems. Celebrate festivals. Plan your cultural and religious festivals and plan your holidays and annual leaves appropriately. Even if large gatherings are not possible, small gatherings at symbolic events at home can be also very meaningful. Now, understand local laws. Familiarize yourself with Australian laws to avoid unintended legal consequences and action considered normal back home. And most importantly, do not accept being in a bad relationship. If it's beyond repair, no amount of gratitude, perseverance will help. It is best to walk out with grace and humility while still having a little leftover respect. Look after yourself and each other. Goodbye.